Good evening and welcome to the Board of Education, North Rose-Wolcott Board of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A motion, please, to approve tonight's agenda. Linda and Shelley, any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We begin tonight with some presentations, so I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Cohen, who will do the introductions.
Thank you, Mrs. Collier. I'm going to start with Miss Marley Shear, one of our fantastic elementary students from North Rose-Wolcott Elementary. I'm going to allow Mrs. Graves to introduce Marley. She's looking fantastic, so I can't wait to hear what she has to say.
Good evening. So this is Marley Shear. She is a fourth grader at NRWE. And to say that she's an exceptional cougar is an understatement. She is nominated exponentially for awards and recognized by her teachers and her peers for being a caring student and friend, and she works extremely hard in school. Tonight, she will be telling you about what she loves about our school and what makes it a great place to learn and play. So I will let Marley share her ideas.
Hi, my name is Marley Shear, and I am a fourth grader at North Rose-Wolcott Elementary. I like playing soccer and playing with my friends. Our school is special because we learn a lot of things that are interesting and fun. My favorite subject is math because I am learning bigger facts, so it is more challenging. I like to be challenged. Each day we have morning meeting. We make a circle and tell everyone good morning and things about ourselves. We learn things about the others in our class. We also learn about the cougar pride traits. My favorite is being grateful because I am grateful for the teachers who helped me learn. This year we started doing buddy days. My class goes with Miss Janice's first grade class. We played dominoes and games together. I really like my buddy. His name is Jackson. We also have a new buddy bench on our playground. I like that we have this because it shows kindness. We sit on it and then I help them or ask them if they want to play. One thing that would make the elementary school better is all the kids behave. When I go to the middle school next year, I will miss my teachers, my principals, and my younger friends. Thank you.
We're so glad things are going wonderful for you. Board members, is there anything you'd like to say to Marley or ask her?
Marley, I have a question for you. This is the first year we've used the buddy system. What are you noticing about it, and what would you like to see continue in the future?
I would like to see in the future a lot of people having fun days with their buddies and being able to have other friends in their school.
Okay, that's awesome. Maybe we can add that to our spring activity when we do our spring, what is it called there? I'm trying to think of the word. When it is springtime, when we get the relays and all that together.
Like field days.
The field days, yeah, sorry. Brain cramp there. Marley, maybe you can help me with my memory in the future. I'm struggling, so. That was wonderful, and I love the fact that you mentioned your buddy and the fact that you guys are able to cooperate and have games and, you know, impress upon them what good cougar pride and citizenship looks like from our Character Ed program. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So next, Mrs. Collier, we're going to get into our district-wide improvement plan. Our directors tonight are going to present their portion of the school improvement plan. So I'd like to ask Mr. Blankenberg, Ms. Brower, Mrs. Elliott, Mr. Henry, Ms. Lopez, and Mr. Stopka to come up to the podium and share with the Board of Education and the community what you've been working on from your respective roles this year. Thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to see everyone tonight. We're very excited to be here tonight and present the 2023-24 school improvement plan. Unlike years past, where we come up individually, this year's presentation is a collaborative effort that we have been working to just highlight the ways that our team of directors works within the administrative team to really be supportive and provide the best possible experience for the students and families that we serve. Working together, we put this plan together, and what our goal is to fulfill our commitment and make sure that we're providing the conditions where students can flourish within our district. We'll open up the floor for questions at the end. Thank you.
North Rose mission, each student will leave the North Rose family with crime preparedness for their future path. And the North Rose-Wolcott vision, North Rose-Wolcott is a community committed to fostering connections and developing experiences. Where individuals can engage in learning that cultivates individualized potential. And for the first goal, instructional practices, students will have access to engaging, relevant, and standards-based instructional practices to improve student learning. And our action steps that we're highlighting tonight are providing students with full balanced meals, collaborating with the administrative team in updating the student Chromebook agreement form and Chromebook handbook, meeting with administrative team and geotech staff to identify and plan future projects. Staff have attended professional development on personalized learning and effective communication, and our goal for 75% of varsity teams to earn the NISPA Scholar Athlete recognition, and routing updates are consistent to provide students with transportation access on a daily basis.
Goal 2 is our physical, social, and emotional needs. We'll continue to build and welcoming and affirming environment for all our students so they feel valued, safe, respected, while ensuring their physical, social, and emotional needs are met at the forefront of whatever we do. Our action steps will include increased participation to nutritional education, review the focus on digital health equity by purchasing new Chromebooks and new sonic panels. Update, maintain clean, inviting learning environment in school and our athletic facilities. Students and staff are currently being trained in teen mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid. Increase our athletic participation. We had 37 more students participate this fall than last fall, and clear expectations for safe communication for all stakeholders.
Goal 3, multi-tiered system of supports. We will use multi-tiered system of supports to identify, monitor, and improve individual outcomes for students, utilizing data, evidence-based practices. Our role when it comes to multi-system of supports is to ensure that students have the environment and the different areas that they need to ensure they have everything that they need at whatever level they are, and we support those systems. So first of all, we're expanding our available food options to be culturally inclusive and allergy sensitive. So all students at Tier 1 are able to be welcomed and have a good, nutritious, balanced meal. We continue to improve our communication and processes with the administrative team and utilizing digital resources, using a diverse array of digital resources within the different levels. to help students meet their needs and obtain their best academic outcomes. We're working to maximize available learning space to support and identify your MTSS process, so students have access to those different places. Our Tier 3 students especially, we're working to collaborate through interconnected systems of support with our outside agencies, YAP, which is Youth Advocate Programs, Family Counseling Services, and Way Behavioral are all options for our students who need that extra support at Tier 3. We continue to promote partnerships with our NRW Recreation to increase access and participation. And we're strengthening our partnerships with staff and parents and guardians to ensure modifications are met for students in need of transportation.
So the goal 4, communication, we will ensure communication is consistent, meaningful, and timely among all stakeholders so that partnerships are built and maintained and families are informed and involved. We will do this through families and community receive updates, menus, and nutritional information through website, newsletters, and Parent Square. Information regarding technology is updated through Building Monday messages and utilizing the parent liaison. Also, increasing communication with building leaders through building safety walkthroughs. We are creating resource brochures with community partner information for students and families to be distributed at future events. Also providing digital contest programs with rosters, schedules, sportsmanship expectations, and emergency evacuation information. And lastly, utilizing school tools to communicate bus referrals, which provides consistent communication with building leaders.
Goal 5 is safety. We'll increase capacity with building safety plans and procedures to ensure a safe and secure environment for all students, staff, and visitors. Goal 5 action step highlights. Continue to evaluate and update equipment in regard to food and safety sanitation. Support TAP app, clips, and integration with school tool. Inspecting, repairing, and maintaining building equipment and systems to support the physical safety of our students, staff, and school community. SRL will continue to work with students and staff, which has been very helpful. Develop and refine safety plans for team practices and contest. And lastly, hosted and completed the Arbor One training. And I'll just add to that, that was before school started, and obviously with transportation, it was very effective for our staff. Not only that, it was opened up to the other districts in the county, which that was all the other district supervisors or somebody that had bus driver or whatnot attended that. It was very effective, and we had a lot of great feedback on that. So hopefully other districts will be involved with that. So, thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, that concludes our collaborative highlights. Do we have any questions that we can
So I was wondering for the, I'm sorry. You talked about the clear expectations for the bump safety communication to all stakeholders. Can someone just explain like what that looks like or how that's done?
Now it's on. With the communication is with the process that we do, communicating with the principals, and then the principals communicate to the families, and then they give us the information back so that our drivers can be involved with what the outcome was and what we're doing moving forward.
And so is there a lesson or a teaching for our students?
I don't know. As far as like in the school, I know that the principal is very supportive of working with us. And I'm sure that they're explaining to the students about the safety and the reasons why they need to comply with the safety rules that we have in place on the bus.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for the update. Keep doing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So while Tina brings up our presentation, I'm going to start off by saying we're getting ready for budget season. We're heading into that time of year. We start taking all these factors into account. So similar to last year, we're going to start off with budget factors that I think the board needs to consider as we go through building our school budget for the 24-25 school year. And, similar to last year, I'm going to use 13 overarching factors, and a few of them are going to be consistent. A few of them have obviously been more prevalent issues recently, so I'm going to highlight those rather than go through all 13. But as you can see, from the onset, everything that we do with respect to our budget, needs to be reasonably anticipating what the economic climate is going to do. The ever-changing financial conditions are certainly something that we're not immune to. So whatever we present to the board and the community in spring needs to take into account what the community can afford and what we can provide that will be sustainable for future years. Gary's going to get into the tax levy limit a little bit after I'm done with the introductory slide. So I'll talk to you about what we dealt with last year with respect to the tax levy limit and also the rate of inflation that we had to combat last year, because it was the highest it's been in 40 years. Number 3, property tax is something I really want to highlight for our group as well. So this year, we have some challenges to our property taxes. We have some properties that have been given to groups as gifts, so those properties will come off tax rolls. And then you'll recall that in the fall, we were approached by a volunteer firefighter to have us consider the real property tax law 466A, which was a law that was enacted in 2022 as part of an executive order that allows for 10% of property tax exemption for residential properties for volunteer firefighters and ambulance personnel. That's something that we have to consider as a board, and if it is something that you want me to put more time and effort into, Gary and I will have to hold a public hearing, and that's something that the board would have to consider. And the criteria in which the ambulance or volunteer ambulance corps and volunteer firefighters would qualify under has to be publicly stated. So that's something just to put in the back of your mind. Like I said, you'll recall we were approached on that issue in the summertime, and it is something to consider. Enrollment is also a number that obviously changes, ebbs and flows. As of as of November 7th of this year, we were at 1,153 total students as compared to 1,163 students at that same date last year. Additional factors that I want to call attention to the board and to the community: staffing. It's no secret that we've been running into some challenges with transportation staff, trying to fulfill those bus positions that are open, bus driver positions that are open. There's a few instructional staff members out there that we have to fill as well. In addition to filling those staffing positions, you'll note that we opened up negotiations recently with one bargaining unit, and we're set to open up negotiations with a second bargaining unit here in the near future. So running in concert with the staffing shortages is the fact that we will be entering into new contractual agreements with at least 2 out of our 3 bargaining units, if not 3 out of the 3 bargaining units. So I think that that's something that we have to consider. And then overall, as I said, the financial health of the district, where we are today, where we need to be in the spring, and then also what the forecast is for the next 5 years. And Gary will get into that specifically in the next couple of slides and then at the end.
Okay, here we are again. And we saw this slide pretty much last year, and just to say that a third of our revenue approximately comes from our property taxes. So it's significant, right? When we're showing last year an 8% increase in the CPI, but we are limited on how we can tax our residents. So we just can't tax our way out of increasing costs. So we have to deal with those from year to year. So just as a reminder, the tax cap limit that restricts us to raising the tax levy only by the lower of the 2% with some factors that go into that, but it's always pretty close to the 2% or the rate of inflation. So I guess the good news is, in one way, that we're under 4% on some of our reserves, and a very conservative look on how we might replenish some of those reserves. So going up 5 years, we're still in a pretty healthy position. Okay, next slide, please. Here's a more of a condensed look at our budget calendar. In your packet, you have the more detailed calendar, which the board will be approving tonight, but this is a pretty familiar calendar. So we're really starting tonight with some of our what we've just been talking about, and then also just taking a look at our long-term plan or our 5-year fund balance budget. This is basically the calendar for our budget, for the 24-25 budget process. Okay. So we'll get, sorry, we do have this slide, thanking our veterans.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, so today each of the 3 schools had wonderful receptions for many of our community members, many of our veterans from the armed forces. So Mr. Barno himself is actually a veteran, so we'd like to just say thank you to the members of our veteran community that live in the North Rose-Wolcott School District, and for many of the freedoms that their sacrifices have afforded us over the years. So I just wanted to say thank you before we got into it, because tomorrow, as you know, the school's off to celebrate the holiday for Saturday, and then the birthday of the United States Marine Corps tomorrow. So anyway, Gary's going to kind of go into a little bit more detail with the 5-year plan, and if there are any questions, he's going to go at a decent clip, but if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to stop us and ask.
Exactly. Thank you. So the first 3 slides here represent, as the board has asked for in the past, we're providing 3 different scenarios for projecting fund balance down the road. So over the next 5 years, and this is a requirement for the board to approve a plan, right? So we look at 3 different scenarios, and this is the same format that I've used in the last couple of years. So I just want to kind of but what I've done is taken these scenarios and put them into a chart. So I just want to kind of quickly go through this first scenario, the second scenario, the third scenario, looking at the numbers real quick. And you can take a look at those, process those a little bit, but we'll focus on some of the trend lines that I like to talk about, because you can go to the next slide, please. There's scenario 3, and we'll go right to the next slide. And so what I want to just kind of emphasize, we've got these 3 different scenarios, and each scenario projects revenue growth and expenditure growth, right? And these, again, are fairly conservative estimates on revenue growth and expenditures. Like I've said before, I don't have a crystal ball, and I make not excuses, but I qualify a lot of the projections, right? So the first scenario, we're showing revenue growth at 2.5% up to 3.5%. That's a 0.75% increase. Scenario 2, we're at a 1.5% spread, I would say, between revenue and expenditures. And the third scenario, the spread is right at 2%. So we'll just take a look at The previous charts that you saw with the numbers, if you look at in the middle, an operating surplus and scenario, operating surplus or deficit, see how this affects in year, really next year. Year one is our base year, and that's where we ended up fund balance wise. But year two, you'll see the effect under scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. And so this plan that we're presenting is really showing that, hey, we can survive operationally with a positive fund balance in all of these cases, even the worst one. But you can see how we manage our reserves with funding our budget and then our ability to replenish those reserves over those 5 years under each of these scenarios. So right here we show a declining balance in our operating surplus under each of the scenarios till scenario 2 and 3 are actually we're operating under a deficit, but that doesn't mean our fund balance is a deficit yet, right? So next slide, please. Now we can take a look at projected revenues versus projected expenses, because I always talk about on a conservative basis, our revenues are going up about that much, but over time, our expenditures go up at a faster rate. So this just kind of illustrates that those scenarios under those projections over each of these scenarios. So it's not till the 5th year, really it's labeled as year 6 under the first scenario where our revenues are actually matching our expenditures. But that line is crossed in the second scenario in year 4 and around year 3 in the third scenario. Next slide, please. And this is just a projection of how we might maintain a positive fund balance by budgeting more year after year as our operating surplus diminishes over time. To scenario 1, where the blue line is tracking the transfers to our reserves. It diminishes our ability to do that, and the red line is projecting funding from the reserves, where we'll have to rely more and more on funding from reserves. So that's really it in a nutshell. I think that's the last one, right? So it's just a way to take a look at what would happen if we just simply relied on funding or balancing our budget on the backs of our reserves. But under scenario 3, 2, and 3, we would never do that. We would make a course correction on our budget. If our revenues were not meeting our planned expenditures, we would have to make some adjustments to the budget. Any questions on that? It's a little confusing.
This isn't really related to the present budget, but I just wanted to ask you, do you think some of the new additional reserves that have been, like for the retirement systems, if that's helpful to us in budgeting, to have that reserve to go to, because the payments fluctuate so much?
So we have an ERS contribution reserve, and we have a newer TRS reserve. We have our liability reserve. Outside of the general fund, we have our debt service reserve. We're using those reserves to help balance our budget, and they are a great tool in managing our fund balance from one year to the next. They're a great tool in managing our budget. We're the only place that has school districts where we are restricted in our fund balance and have to have our voters approve the budget, right? So we go year to year, but we also have to look at the long-term plan. So it's a great management tool.
Thank you. Gary, when I'm looking at scenario 1 versus scenario 3 with the expenditures,
Right.
and there is a higher level of expenditures in number 3, is that correct?
Correct.
So does that mean that at scenario 1, there have been some major cuts in teachers or programs?
Really, it could be a combination of cuts. It could be due to from one year, maybe, I always talk about our major cost drivers being retirement and health insurance, and then other drivers, less drivers like fuel costs, utilities, that sort of thing. And also what we negotiate, that's always factored in there. So it's a combination of those things. So we're assuming we're going to keep the budget growth at 3%, or at 3.25% or 3.5%. So like I said before, we have to, in a case where we have double-digit increase in health insurance and double-digit increase in retirement costs, we have to make some corrections somewhere right to the budget. That usually means program.
So is scenario 3 with a 4% increase, is that an anticipated sameness from the previous year? I mean, you didn't add program.
I think that what that is saying is we expect a budget-to-budget increase to be somewhere between 3% and 4% in all these scenarios.
But it's not additional program, it's just maintaining what we have.
That's correct. Yep, all other things being equal. Yes.
So scenario number 3 is the one where we're continuing to maintain the programs, the activities that we currently have.
Really, all of them are, but where we end up revenue-wise and cost increase-wise from year to year is just a projection. This is a plan utilizing our reserves to show that we can maintain solvency over a 5-year period.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting this together, Gary. When you refer to revenue growth, is that strictly tax levy increases or?
No, that's a good question. And we talked about the tax levy limit being about a third of our revenues. And most all of our money is property taxes, and then about 2/3 of our revenue. There's other stuff, interest and sales tax and things, but roughly speaking, 2/3 of our revenue is state aid. So I don't project a high level of revenue, huge increases in state aid, and we're capped on the property taxes. So I'm pretty conservative in using those numbers. I always anticipate that our CPI is a good indicator that costs increase more than our rate of revenue will be increasing. And that's kind of why I show these scenarios in that way.
So, working on that, knowing that over the last 3 years, the cumulative rate of inflation is somewhere between 18 and 21%, what are we looking at going forward? Are you showing a decrease or factoring in a decrease in inflation over the 5 years, keeping it the same as what it is today, just on the expenditure portion of it, or is that figuring that it's going to decrease a little bit?
For example, if I do a rollover budget right now, and I have, it looks like we may have to make some cuts. Usually my rollover budget, assuming, and I don't know yet what health insurance is going to be, or at this point with the TRS. Remember, we talked about this in January. We're expecting the governor's proposal to come out on state aid. We're expecting in January, February, and sometimes into late May or March, what increases on our retirement rates are going to be, and health insurance. So it assumes we're going to keep our budget at a certain level, and that might mean cutting back, or it might mean adjusting our funding from reserves or appropriated fund balance.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we work with the reserves, the fund balance. We look at where we might have to cut back within the budget itself to keep to a 4% or so growth.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. It's always good to get started with the budget, but always scary. We move on to reports and correspondence. I know this has been kind of a bad month for everyone in getting in contact with their schools, so if you're a liaison who has not been able to make that connection, we understand. John, how about you? Were you able to get through?
Yes, Mrs. Graves helped me greatly.
Great.
She indicated to me that they held their annual fall fun days, and parent volunteers joined and had a variety of fall fun things, such as pumpkin decorating, candy corn relay, which might have been very interesting. They also had parent-teacher conferences this week, and many parents attended, and students are invited as well, so they can share with their parents, obviously look around the room, but also having to do with their achievement. Family Fun Literacy Night in partnership with the Wayne County Literacy Volunteers. Mr. Poole and Mr. Nesbitt read a variety of children's books for about 60 students and family members, and free books were given out. And today they had an annual breakfast with veterans and then the assembly, and they had 20 veterans that were at North Rose Elementary. And the new windows are almost done, and they anticipate having the classes moving back upstairs next week, and driving by, they look really sharp against the building. I think they're really good looking. So hopefully they're weather resistant and thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm so glad to hear the elementary kids are having some fun too. With all the academic push that goes on these days, it's important for kids to have fun. Shelley, do you have anything from the middle school?
I do.
No.
I do. I've been very busy at the middle school. Ms. Rupp and Mr. Hassel have created a Pride Call of the Week. That's where Ms. Rupp and Mr. Hassel may each choose one student who has done a good deed, like brightened somebody's day, helping a friend, mastering a goal, or overcoming an obstacle. So with that, they, along with the student, they call home to the parent to share the good news. These students are also celebrated on Facebook, so for any of you who are not a part of the Facebook North Rose-Wolcott, it is a great opportunity to see those students and staff that are highlighted. On the 27th of October, they had a Cougar Pride Assembly, and it was the second monthly assembly. They celebrated students and staff members of the month who exemplified October's Cougar trait of optimism. Staff of the month were Miss Olmstead and Mrs. Kennedy. Students participated in a raffle, and they were able to, they pied 6 students in the face, which was a huge hit. On October 30th, the REV Theater Company spoke with 5th graders and performed a short play for them about Amelia Earnhardt. The REV Theater is, previously they were the Merry-Go-Round Theater. So they provide in-school arts education, and they really spur social awareness and cultural development throughout the Finger Lakes region. Last night, there were parent-teacher conferences, and also we had here at the middle school a community meet and greet. It was held in the middle school cafeteria, and many partners attended, such as Reliant Credit Union, Lions National Bank, Rose Historical Society, Town of Rose. There were handcrafted hugs, Kay's Farm Stand, and more. And a big thank you to all who attended that activity. And as we said earlier, all of the schools did recognize Veterans Day. There was a Veterans Day assembly held here. There were 21 veterans that were honored, and many of them had students that they were related to here in the building. They had a light breakfast with their students, and they were individually honored from the auditorium. And the chorus did a great job singing the national anthem. So lots of great activities that will continue for the month of November, I'm sure. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Linda, do you have anything from the high school?
Actually, I did not get together with staff there, which is all on me, but next month I'll double up.
Okay. How about Tina? Cougar Ops?
Yeah, Mark provided you some great information. Indicates that all of our students continue to be working hard and striving to get the credits that they need. The plan for after Thanksgiving break is 64 students will be working toward Regents credit, which is huge. So they'll be taking the Regents in January, and then hopefully moving forward, all 64 successful. The tutoring center currently has 30 students, and we want to remember those students that are in there are due to a suspension or from some students that are waiting for special ed placement. They just haven't secured placements for it yet. Cougar Ops also participated in parent conferences. It was very productive, helpful. Parents were definitely indicated that they feel the program's been successful and helpful to their children. So things are going well.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you so much. Linda, do you have anything to report from the Fort County Board of Directors of the Legislative Committee?
Actually, for both, Fort County Board of Directors will be meeting later on this month, next week, and Fort County Legislative Committee will be meeting on Saturday. I want to thank board members that have given me feedback about 3 issues that you feel are critical for districts. I do want to say that my experience with going to Lobby Day in Albany is that Fort County and Wayne County Finger Lakes BOCES are really listened to when we go there. They see us as leaders in the rural schools area, so it's good to know that our feedback from our local boards is listened to and acted upon.
Thank you. I have nothing to report from handbook. John, do you have anything to report from audit?
No.
Okay, you did send us minutes, so we appreciate that. Jason, do you have anything from district safety?
No.
Okay. Paul, oh, here's Paul. Hello, Paul. We're so glad you could make it. Paul is zooming in from, where are you, Colorado?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been able to listen since the beginning, but I finally got to know you. Oh my God.
Is there anything on the policies that you want to address?
Yes, I was just trying to call them up. But you can see there's a lot of them. The ones that we recommend delete, we just felt like are no longer applicable or are covered by law.
Okay.
The second group is, as you can see, are all reviewed. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve those policies as approved on our first reading.
You're making a motion for the board to approve the policies that you've listed under reviewed, and there's no change that you recommend. Is that correct?
I couldn't hear the very end of it, but yes, I believe you captured it.
All right. Is there a second to that motion? Jason? Is there discussion? John?
I would be opposed to that. I think for consistency's sake, we should keep them on for the first reading and second reading for board members who don't have time to read it the first time, that they have it the second time. I like the consistency we've had for the previous years.
Okay. Are you saying, John, that you feel that that there might be board members who would like to maybe make a change or are questioning something in a policy, and you'd like to keep it on the 2 reads?
Yeah, that opens all the options that you might have. I believe that's important for the policies of the district.
Okay, any other discussion? Comments?
Just that in a way, we're not following the policy that we had before of having 2 readings.
Okay.
If we do it this way, but.
Yeah, but the policy states that we can waive the second read.
Jason, what are you saying?
The policy states that we can waive the second read if there's a majority vote, and these are just reviewed, there's no changes made to them, so I mean, I'm good with it as long as the majority is, but that's what it's going to come down to. But the policy does say that we can waive the second read.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment?
I have one more, sir.
Yes, Paul?
Also, the committee's reviewed them already, so I believe, please confirm, but I believe the superintendent has also reviewed them and talking to the appropriate chapter.
Paul is saying that the superintendent has also reviewed them and agrees that they are okay as they stand. That's what you said, I think. Is that what you all heard? Yes, okay. Okay, good, thank you. All right, any other comments?
No, I support the recommendation. If there's no changes, we reviewed them. I realize that in the past, that they were read a second time, but if there's no changes, and the policy committee and the superintendent, if we've all reviewed them and we feel that they're appropriate, then I am comfortable with just putting them on for the first, to read it once and then move forward.
All right. Then I will call the vote. All in favor of approving the reviewed policies after the first read, please raise your hand.
Can I just get some clarification?
Yes.
Is that for these only, or is that in the future we continue to use that practice?
No. That's a motion that can be made by anyone at any time that's presenting a change or a review of a policy. That isn't, well.
I'm asking, are we changing how we're going to, from now on, are we going to just do a first read?
I would think that if this is something that the board is interested in doing, it would have to be referred back to policy to change, to make that clear in the policy. I don't believe the policy at this point addresses reviewed policies at either a first or a second read, as I looked it up. But we have a motion just on these at the
Okay,
current time.
that's all I was asking for,
Yes.
is that clarification?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I will repeat that then. All in favor of approving the reviewed policies after this first read, please signify by approving them after the first read. There's 2. That only equals... There were 4 the first time. So, thank you.
I'll do a roll call.
Oh, all right.
Cinda,
No.
Tina,
Yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
John,
No.
Paul.
Yes.
The motion is carried 4-2.
Motion is carried 4-2. All right. 5-2.
Sorry.
5-2, okay, thank you.
5-2, sorry.
All right. Anything else on the other ones who are recommended for deletion or revision? John?
I have a question that I'm sure the committee can answer very quickly. Like 1620 are the duties of the district treasurer. That's pretty cut and dried. That they want that deleted. How will the district 10 years from now know what the duties of the district treasurer be without it being in the policy book? You're probably going to say it's in head law, but who reads that? Seriously, who will be responsible for making sure that those duties are the ones that, and it's just not that one, it's the other deleted ones as well.
Paul, go ahead.
Paul?
Yes, my understanding that we're not going to adapt all of those duties up into a regulation book as opposed to having them in the policy, because really they're just job descriptions. That's where we're headed with that.
But at this point then, we are not there. And from what you're saying is that it's in the future a book on regulations, not on policies.
Yeah.
Then how can we delete it if it's not covered?
So I think what I hear John saying is he's not comfortable deleting it at this time. He'd be more comfortable deleting it if the job descriptions and the handbook are present before he had to vote. Did that come through?
My question to you is there not a book now that we can adapt, that we can put these duties on?
There's several job descriptions, yes, but it's not necessarily in a book. If you're asking us to compile all the job descriptions and put it into the book for the titles we have, we could do that, but we don't currently have a book. We do have varied job descriptions for each specific role, though, yes.
Can I say?
Okay, so that's a concern. Jason?
Yeah, I'll second John's concern on that because I completely understand what he's saying. In the meantime, it's kind of like there's a gray area where future board members may not understand the roles and responsibilities of certain individuals in the school. So I think keeping it in the book would be
All right.
worth a discussion at the next meeting.
So are you referencing a first read for clarification, the policy that was going to be deleted? Right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're not deleting anything for this. This is just discussion. I would like to comment on the policy, the deletion of the Sunday activities. I recall when that policy was instituted, I recall that there was quite a large group of parents who petitioned the board to not have Sunday activities. Some petitioned because they were concerned that their kids were being taken out of their churches, and others were concerned that it was infringing on the one day that they felt they had for family things. At the time, I recall coaches saying, well, they don't have to come on Sunday. That's okay. But there were repercussions if they weren't practices because maybe they didn't get started or they were reprimanded in that, well, you weren't here, so you don't know and you can't play. So they had petitioned for that. And I personally am very much in favor of keeping the school out of one day, that parents can have family days and can choose and select what the family chooses to do, whether it be church or other sports activities or picnics or whatever. So that's my opinion on the deletion of the Sunday activities. Are there any comments on John?
I would agree. I was a staff member here when that occurred, and it was a long, long time ago. And it was the age before cell phones and before Facebook and modern TVs. No cable, it was antennas. So the family meant a lot more. And what happened, not that it doesn't now, but it's different. As Mrs. Collier said, that there was a group of people who rose up in opposition to having Sunday activities at the school. And they persuaded the sitting school board at that time to come up with this. And if you notice, there is no ed law involved in it at the bottom. There's no reference to it. It is a local policy. You won't find it probably in Erie One BOCES, our originator and overseer. So I am in favor of keeping that one as well. I think it gives guidance to coaches and to club advisors to stay away if possible. And they say it's not a cut and dried thing. It's a possibility that you could have a practice or an activity, but not necessarily. And the thrust is not to have activities on Sunday. I also know that there are many young people now who belong to club sports and club activities, but on Sundays, and they meet on Sundays. But that's their choice, and not the choice of a public official, a coach, or a school district. But I'm in favor of keeping that policy in our policy book.
Are there any other comments on any of the policies that are here for the first read?
Just one general one. I appreciate the hard work that the policy committee has done. John in the past, who was on it for many years. But I think that there's value in not watering down the policy manual for the reason that it gives the community some place to go if they have a question on the operational or expectations of a department or an area of the school. And if we just continue to delete policies, they're not going to know where to look. So that's just my 2 cents for current and future boards.
Thank you. Anyone else? Linda?
I just wanted to make a personal comment because as a mom who was a working mom, I really appreciate having a day when I can be with my family and do whatever.
Linda, can you use your microphone so that Paul can hear, please?
Oh, can you hear me now, Paul?
Can you turn it off? Turn it up. There you go.
Hi, Paul. Can you hear me now? I was just making a personal comment that as a working
Weeks or month, I guess.
Yes, that's a really good discussion, I appreciate that. I don't know whether we want to pull it during the second read, or we can decide what we want to do.
Because it's a first read, we will leave them all on, and then at the next time when we consider them, if we want to pull some out, we can do that at that time on a second read. But this gives the board time now to go back to those policies, reread them, and consider whether or not, to consider the comments you've heard tonight. Okay? Thank you. We move now to the consent agenda, the public access to the board. Tina, is there any public access?
There's a section before the public access for Personnel and Negotiations Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Sorry.
All right, is there anything to report, Tina, from the Personnel Negotiations Committee?
No,
No,
not at this point.
not at this point, okay.
There is no one signed up.
No one signed up for public access. We move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda goes through page 6 in your agendas. Is there a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Tina and Shelley. Any discussion, questions? John?
Could I have number 6 removed, but not removed, discussed? Just information.
6. I gotta find it. Hold on a second.
It's
The
technology.
appoint the technology parent liaison?
Yep.
Yes, we'll pull that for discussion afterwards for a separate motion. Anyone else? Number 6, Paul.
Appoint the technology parent liaison.
Page 4, okay? Hearing no discussion or questions, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as it stands currently? Motion is carried. We'll now address the motion, number 6, the appointment of the technology parent liaison. A motion, please, to approve number 6. Pardon? No, I need the motion on the floor first. Paul, motions. John, seconds. Now, is there discussion?
I don't know anything about the person, I just wanted to know what the person will be doing as a technology parent liaison. I think it's intriguing.
It's fine. Mr. Pullen, can you?
Really interested in that.
Yes, so they work under the community schools administrator, so they work with Miss Elliott. A lot of times when parents are setting up their parent square information, or they have questions with respect to Chromebooks or hotspots or anything like that, the parent liaison would be the point person working with Lori and Lisa Brower, both trying to facilitate and assist in any way possible with respect to communication or technology-driven questions. So you know, we're using Parent Square for a lot of our components in terms of communication out and getting them set up. They've had like mini academies in the fall trying to really communicate out, and we just want to make sure every parent has equal access to the main form of communication that the school is using. And then if there's issues with Chromebooks, things of that nature, the parent liaison could be a conduit to take it back to the administrators and say, here's what we're starting to see from a trend perspective.
Is there any other discussion or questions on number 6?
Is that a full-time position, Mr. Pullen?
No.
Anything else? All right, then all in favor of approving number 6, the appointment of the technology parent liaison. Motion is carried. We go to page 6. The appointment, oh no, sorry. We're at the board member requests, and I have the board commitment number 2 that was devised at the workshop last time. I will ask you to pass those down. And I will read it in a moment. All right, what we had decided on for number 2 at the workshop last time was that the North Rose-Wolcott Central School Board of Education commits to better understanding the district's climate and culture in relationship to our students, school personnel, and community, and the reasons for employees leaving the district through summary data provided by the superintendent. At last meeting, we did approve and accept number 1 and 2, which of course got put into the handbook. And so we would need a motion now for number 2 as developed. Tina and Shelley? Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of adding this to our commitments for the 2023-24 year? All in favor? Motion is carried. All right. Also under board request, Jason, you requested to be part of this today, so we'll bullet you in here on our agendas.
Thank you. Everyone should have a copy of a draft motion that I was putting forth that aligns with goal number 2. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read it, but I'd like to at least hear everyone's ideas so that we could possibly put it on the agenda for consideration during the next meeting.
Is there anyone who needs it?
I emailed it earlier and there should be copies on everyone's desk.
Oh. Okay. All right, so what are you asking for, Jason?
Well, rather than just bring forth a motion without the rest of the board's input, I was just looking for board input on something that they would be okay with. And if you'd like me to read it, I can read it.
You want input, but you're not making you're not making a motion?
No, that's why I brought it up to the discussion period.
I see, okay.
Could I ask a
Board
question?
members, if this was to go to motion at a next meeting, you would have to all agree, or not, although Jason can certainly bring a motion, but he's looking for input on a motion that you intend to present next month. Is that what I'm understanding?
Exactly. So rather than put everyone on the spot for a motion that they're unprepared for, I thought it would be better taken
All right.
during discussion so that we could have an open discussion on concerns or likes or
Okay.
such
Right.
on the motion. And I think the motion is directed towards the what, not the how, in our board responsibilities when we are making motions and giving directives. It directly aligns with number 2 of our goals, and it's what we've been talking about for 4 or 5 months.
Where did
now.
the motion come from?
Where did it come from? My computer.
Pardon?
From my computer?
Oh, you wrote it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, well,
I
I'm
didn't
just
borrow it.
asking. All right, a discussion. Comments to Jason on anything you want to comment on?
Not to Jason, but to Paul, do you have a copy of it?
An email.
Well, I just want to know, if we have a full discussion, we need to know if he realizes what's on the paper.
Paul, have you reviewed what Jason sent?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, comments, board members? John?
I read through it and it's intriguing and well thought out. I'd have to ask Jason a couple of fundamental questions. And as I remember several meetings ago, or maybe privately, I don't know, you told me, can our BOCES do some of the data crunching?
Our BOCES doesn't offer the service, but there's other BOCES in the state that do.
And we can just cross-service with them, cross-contract with them?
Yeah, and I didn't want to go, to be honest with you, that was 3 months ago, it might have been the intention, after a recent meeting. I didn't want to get too deep into the how, that's the superintendent's responsibility, it's just the what that so I purposely left those types of things out of it, unless the board has a different objective, but that is an option for the superintendent to go to, should we pass the motion.
I also have a question, and this goes to the, probably too deep too, is that what cost will it be to our district?
And that expense would cover all the different areas that are included in
The way it was
and all the different stakeholders as well?
The way it was explained to me, and I believe I handed that information out when I got it from Nassau County BOCES, that included the parent survey, the student survey, and then the staff survey as well. So that was encompassing all three demographics. It did not go as far as the community, which I know that is important to some board members, including myself. So I don't know what the additional cost would be for community members that are not parents, but that's what I have now. And I'm sure the superintendent, should we decide, will do it as efficiently as possible.
Anyone else?
Senator,
Yes, Paul.
so do I understand, I was having a trouble here at the beginning, so do I understand that this is something that we're going to study and either put on the agenda for next meeting, or I'm not sure where we stand at?
Jason intends to put this on the agenda for next time to present a motion. He's just asking for board input at the moment.
So I have it's a wonder, actually. I'm trying to, we're looking at our board commitment number 2. Okay, and it is, our board commitment is expecting that the superintendent will work to find ways to provide the Board of Education with this information. So this is my wonder. Since we have just voted on and we support our commitment number 2, should we not wait or ask the superintendent to then come back and provide us with how he thinks he's going to work to accomplish this commitment? Would that make sense? I mean,
I think it makes sense, but our commitments aren't a directive to the superintendent. We haven't taken a vote on asking him to do anything. I think anything that needs to be done in regards to directing the administration of the school needs to be done through a motion.
but I believe, Jason, through the summary and data provided by the superintendent, so which we just voted on, and so I'm interested to find out then what that's going to look like. Maybe that's my wonder. And it could be he's going to come back and say, we're going to recommend that we have a student, staff, community.
But we haven't done that, though. What we've done is we've accepted our commitments for the year and our goals, but we haven't directed the superintendent to anything.
Well, aren't we doing that tonight?
No, I don't think so.
Got it.
I kind of assumed that when it said through summary data provided by the superintendent, that the baton is being passed to the superintendent to do the gathering and getting the data. And I don't imagine he would leave us out of that loop. Would you?
Well, I think that this is helpful, I mean, he may be providing this thought, to move forward, and then let's see the recommendation that he's going to have and how he plans to move forward.
in my opinion, I don't doubt that he would by any means whatsoever. I just don't know that we have anything in writing that state, and I can be wrong, you can put it in front of me, I'll eat crow, but I don't think that we have anything in writing stating that the superintendent of North Rose-Wolcott will dutifully execute board goals on an annual basis. I don't know if that's there. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't do it, but what I'm saying is that we've talked about goal number 2 for 6 months now, and we've talked about what's in this motion. And if there's board members that don't feel comfortable voting yes for it, I understand that. It's not like I take anything personally. But I think that this is directly aligned with our strategic plan. I think it's directly aligned with our board goals. And I think that requesting this motion is, or putting forth this motion is warranted based on those things.
We're not trying to find a consensus or a vote tonight. We're just giving Jason feedback. And anyone else have feedback for Jason? Paul? Oh, sorry. Paul? Can you speak a little louder, Paul?
Well, it's hard because it's going through my laptop.
Okay.
But that's okay. I mean, I've got the writing, so I just wanted to just say that I think it's at least a good plan for Friday.
Okay.
Just to start.
All right. Tina, you started to speak.
I guess I'm wondering if, I'm kind of on the same lines as what Shelley was saying, we haven't given our superintendent an opportunity to come back to us with what plan he would have. Jason, you're not suggesting this would be the only thing he would do. A survey is more than likely going to happen in order to get the information that we're seeking. Correct. Right. But we're not limiting it to a survey. So if superintendent and committee that were put together came up with something different or in addition to this, you wouldn't be opposed.
No, I would consider it voting for anything. I mean, but at that point in time, it would be another discussion, I guess.
What kind of time frame are you thinking this is going to happen in?
Well, I thought that would be amongst a discussion amongst us. I mean, I didn't think this should be done in 20 days or 15 days or anything like that. I thought that based on the goals of this board and the strategic plan, I kind of thought that it would be more in line than what it is with, I thought that we'd be more in line with our opinions. But what's the biggest thing that's got you questioning whether or not it's the right move for the board?
I don't. I'm a little concerned that we're back in the weeds again, that this is somewhat operational.
There's nothing operational in here.
I see differently.
There's the what, there's not the how. And if you see a how, let me know, because that wasn't my intention whatsoever.
Anyone else? John?
I need clarification. Are we giving our superintendent a goal? Are we giving it to him as a goal? In other words, he has other goals this year. Are we adding this to his list of goals?
I don't know. Yes, Jason. This is Jason's motion.
No, it's not, I think where you're coming from is are we presenting our board commitments to the superintendent to enact? And if that's the case, that has to be done through a motion, to my understanding. Whether it's this or whether it's this, we have to direct in some way, shape, or form this to be executed, or this to be or the combination of both. And if I'm misinterpreting the policy that relates to that, please correct me, but I don't believe that I am.
Concern when I read it was it says directs the superintendent to undertake the following actions. And I read them and I thought, when is our superintendent, who's already stretched to the limit, going to be able to add this to a schedule? especially with the many crisis things that seem to be creeping up every week. So that was my concern. With it.
And a recommendation could be made by the superintendent that he will request from the board that he hire an outside agency to do this. That could be done.
Absolutely, but I didn't want it to be in the motion because that's the how, not the what.
Well, when I read this, I read how. I read how.
You read how?
I do too, because the verbs conduct, develop, collaborate, analyze,
Right.
use, those are all action words that really speak to doing.
Well, the motion isn't doing. The motion is putting forth an expectation.
I'm just saying,
But
the
it says-
wording here
it says
sounds
conduct or-
like we're directing.
Okay, well, I mean, if you'd rather, we can just put it up for vote now and vote it down. I mean, that's fine. I mean, but I just don't, I don't understand the hesitation on trying to align a procedure that will carry out one of our board commitments. So
I just think you're getting some feedback that people are reading it a little differently maybe than you're proposing it.
and that's why I'm having it during discussion as opposed to just bringing it up for a vote. So I guess I'll turn the table and ask the question of, after we approve number 2 tonight, and number 1 and number 3 at the previous board, what's everyone's feelings on how that's going to be executed? What are your expectations?
I'm expecting the superintendent is going to come back to share with us how he's going to do that. I mean, I think this outline is great, it might be something he wants to consider. But in my opinion, when I read this, Jason, we are telling him exactly how to do it.
So, and I don't disagree with you, just in years past when the board has voted on goals, we've never had a superintendent or an interim superintendent come back and give us a presentation on how those goals were going to be executed or met.
But I think, from what I understand, this is my, I've gone through 2 development of board goals, and this year we really focused on commitments. That is our expectation, that as a board, we're providing this to the superintendent so that then he can help us to realize, actualize our request.
And I respect that 1,000%. My concern is in years past, such as last year, we wrote goals at the beginning of the year and we never revisited them until the end of the year. And that's on the board, that's not on the superintendent. So my expectation was, coming into this, was to have something more black and white and tangible that we could see throughout the year, engage the effectiveness and the outcome of our goals. But if I missed something and all of a sudden that those things are going to happen when they happen in years past, then I could be completely fine with that. But I just haven't heard that, and I haven't experienced it. I haven't been communicated that, and frankly, it's the first I've heard of this.
Well, first you heard of what?
Our superintendent coming back and giving us a plan on how he's going to execute our goals.
Oh, well, I guess that was part of the discussion of that workshop day 2 weeks ago, and you weren't here, so you missed that part.
I did miss that. I
Yeah.
wasn't at that meeting. That was, I think, the second
Do
meeting.
you
5
feel
years
you've had
ago.
enough feedback for now?
Sure.
Okay. Okay?
You're good. Thank you.
All right. If I can find my agenda. Good news. And I want to begin with good news. Last Thursday, I was privileged to attend the Wayne County Veterans Honor Hall of Fame, honoring veterans who've been nominated to be part of this Hall of Fame, and it was an honor and a privilege to hear the biographies of these veterans and their service to our country. And I was there because my uncle, who was in World War II and was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed, was one of the nominees. So, but I was very surprised as I was looking along here with our Paul Stansky being nominated, and Linda was there as well. And we were very proud of you, Paul, for being nominated. And we thank you. We're extremely proud that you were nominated and for all that you have done. A few years ago, we were coming back from Syracuse from a NISBA conference, and Linda and I grilled Paul on the way home of what he did in the service, and we were blown away with his flying and his action that he had seen. We grilled him on how he flew off and on aircraft carriers and what happened when the little thing didn't catch, and how he did this in the dark of the night and in the storms, and the squadrons over Vietnam that he was part of, and what he was shooting down or bombing. And so I was just very impressed and very proud of you, Paul, and we're so glad you're part of our school district and on our school board, and we thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Now, if anybody has good news to top that, go ahead. Paul? Oh, I know who he is.
Really nice article about our capital project.
Great, thank you. John?
This isn't necessarily the good news, but one of our past staff members was highlighted on, and his wife, Ross and Karen Amico. He taught health here for a number of years, and then moved to the western part of Monroe County. He was on Channel 8 News, he and Karen. Unfortunately, his wife is 69 years old, has developed Alzheimer's. And the title of the article, the video article, was "The One to Remember." And it was in 2 sections, and it had to do with an experimental drug that she's on, that she has to go to New York City, and it's like $5,000 to $8,000 per month. And it was very touching, and having gone through a similar but not the same type of environment, it was well done. And the more publicity that kind of research can get, the better off we all are in the future. But Ross has been in communication with me at times, and he was a good teacher, a wrestling coach here. He and his wife lived here, and it was just intriguing to see how he's proceeded to help his wife and how she's responding. It was very well done.
Great, thank you. John. Tina?
Okay, these are minor compared to all of this, but...
Speak up and your mic's off and hear you, please.
Okay, so I got to go to trunk or treat with my 2 grandsons. But what I'm trying to say is it was great to see our high school staff had a trunk there. They were greeting our students. It just was, it was different than any time before we hadn't seen our staff there. It was great to see. They gave out great candy. I got some. It was good. And I also was part of National Honor Society, another great ceremony. The staff did a phenomenal job. It was well received. I was disappointed in the number of parents here, though. But it was great. So congratulations to our staff and thank you.
Linda?
Well, I was just going to say that it was a wonderful experience being at Senator Palmering's Hall of Fame thing, and it was amazing. It was amazing hearing about Paul, but it was amazing hearing about even the posthumous people, and I was kind of floored when one of them was from the Revolutionary War, and they spoke about how this gentleman from Wayne County worked closely with George Washington, and they consulted on developing the Purple Heart citation. That was amazing. But every single veteran had amazing aspects that were brought out in their, by their sponsors, because their sponsor that, and of course Paul's sponsor was very close to him. It was his son, and that made it even more special. Right, Paul? So,
Thumbs up for me.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I've got two more.
Oh, Paul, yes.
We have two students on the Section 5 Student Advisory Committee, Ryan Whistler and Glenn Tompkins. Also, our volleyball team just made it all the way to the semifinals in boys volleyball this year, so that was quite an accomplishment.
That's great. Thank you. All right. At this time, I'd like a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of specific employees. Is there a motion, please? Linda and Shelley. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We will, when we come back from executive session, we will not be doing any business. We will just be adjourning. You're welcome to stay for the adjournment if you want. Or otherwise, I bid you good night. And I believe the Zoom is now. And Paul, we're going to go into executive session, so we'll say good night to you and happy trails to you. Good night.
Great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Couple weeks.